soy
Rosalinda
Alexander
Nino y yo soy latina.
Yo soy
Gilberto Chaidez Jr.
Yo soy
latino.
Mi nombre es
Qoc'avib
Palma y yo soy latino.
My name is Qoc'avib Revolorio. I said my name is Qoc'avib Revolorio, and I realized that it may seem strange because the English language requires a U to follow the Q, and my name, well, it lacks. But I'm pretty strange too, so I'm okay with that. And I know what you're probably thinking. What's this white boy güerito doing with an ancient Mayan name? But no, I'm not about to tell you where it is. My father came because, well, it shouldn't matter. I mean, not because of the fact that my skin doesn't match that of my dad's, but that I'm still a person. So you can bet. Yo soy un mestizo siempre listo, cabeza metido por entre los libros. And you can bet I'm not your typical hypocritical poet. I'm an original, metaphysical mestizo that you don't even know yet, with a voice louder than all the who's in Whoville and that entire spec. And you know I came to wreck. My name is Qoc'avib Revolorio. I'm 22 years old. I go to Aurora University and I'm studying marketing, business administration, and Spanish language. I can think of a few examples in my childhood where I felt ostracized or just different. So I grew up in a neighborhood that was mostly Mexican, and growing up you pick up the slang, you pick up the tense, the language, the accent. Most of the kids I look up to were Latino, dark skin, dark hair, with my older brother, and the little I remember from my father, we had pictures at home in a drawer. And you'd always see he's very dark skinned, long, dark, black hair. And the kids in my neighborhood, they would tease me, they would call me Goldilocks. And man, that drove me crazy. I mean, it was never fun to be picked on. But I think a big part of that was my frustration. I knew I could never be a reflection of these people that I admired in front of me. I could never look like my dad. I could never look like my older brother. Dark skin, dark hair, brown eyes. So it was hard adjusting. And as a young man, I took out a lot of that frustration in some negative ways. It was just at the same time period, you know, middle school, where you start to understand that misbehaving can get you attention. So my poor mother, after a while, she said, you know what, I can't raise you by myself. You know, you need a man to teach you how to be a man. So she sent me to Guatemala. And from there, I met my father and my grandparents. And I learned a lot about being Latino. And it was beautiful. It was a great experience. Even there, I was different. Este güerito sabe hablar español. Where did this boy learn to talk? And because I grew up in a Mexican neighborhood, they thought I was Mexican. I spoke Mexican. It was terrible. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to speak. Eventually, I decided to finish my education here in the United States. So I came back. And I remember working my first jobs in high school. I was a busboy, you know, cleaning dishes and at a country club. And some of the regulars, they would come and say, "Foreigner, come take this plate." Or "Foreigner, I need you over here." And I remember the people in my class, they'd be like, "Oh, I love your accent." And I would respond, "I grew up here. I'm from down the street from you." There was a lot of confusion. You see what I'm saying? You don't know where to fit. To me, being Latino is not clear-cut definition. See, and I feel like that's a negative part of our culture here in the United States, is to oversimplify things. We say, "I am," and then a noun. I am a firefighter. I am a mother. I am a plumber. You know, but you're so much more than that. Why are you doing yourself the disservice of confining yourself? So I resist these labels. You know, part of me is the rebel, right? You're like, you can't put me in a box, right? But to be honest, the truth isn't always simple, and it's not always easy enough to understand with one word. I'm not just a Latino. And it's taken a long time and a lot of really good men in my life to teach me that I'm a mestizo, someone of mixed heritage. And I'm not the only one. There's so many others like me who were born with an indigenous name, like my name, Qoc'avib, and grow with the same customs, right? And we find ourselves living with irony, being white in a household of Latinos, or being dark-skinned in a country of light-skinned people. And so it renders this irrelevant, almost, that race is not something you can define yourself by. Rather, it would be better to define ourselves by the cultures that we come from. See both sides. See, I'm now presently, I embody my father's struggle, but I also embody the parts of my mother, her family and her legacy here in Aurora. And I'm both of that. And it's important that we remember to celebrate both all the time. And as mestizos, as mixed beings, we have an opportunity to take what we like from either culture and build a bridge. And we become examples of world citizens.
Hi, my name is Rosalinda Nino. I'm 25 years old. I graduated from Aurora University in 2010 with my bachelor's in social work. I then graduated in 2012 with my master's in social work. I am now working for Aunt Martha's as a therapist. I work with adolescents who are runaways. So I'm extremely passionate when it comes to who I am and the things that help me become me. With that being said, I'm very passionate about my ethnicity, about my culture, about my family, my environment, and overall the experiences that have guided me to becoming the woman that I am. I think to me, some of the most important factors in my life have been my upbringing and my environment, my family. I think my teachers, right from the start, from elementary school, I attended Brady Elementary School in Aurora. Right from the get-go, always instilled in me to set goals and to achieve them. And so did my parents. I remember just knowing that for me, college was what I was going to do. There was no option to me. I knew that followed after high school, and it was what I was going to do. In itself, attending college is something that everyone should be proud of. To me, I'm very proud of it because I'm the first one in my family here to receive a bachelor's and a master's degree. After high school, I attended Aurora University, and my experience at Aurora University was completely different than the experience I had growing up. I was used to being one of many Latino students in my classrooms up to high school. And once I went to Aurora University, I noticed that many times I was the only Latina sitting in the classroom. But if I saw a Latino, it was one or two Latinos in my classroom, and that's pretty much how it was throughout my college experience. I remember during my freshman year, it was a shock. It was something I didn't expect. Even in my dorm rooms, I remember being the only Latina on my floor. With time, I knew that that's something that I should be very proud of. I was proud of being a Latina at a university like Aurora University, and oftentimes in my classes, I found that whenever we were talking about culture, ethnicity, race, education, and whenever the topic of Latinos came up, that I remember the classrooms always turning to me, the professor turning to me, and waiting for me to put my my input to talk about my experience. And I would always mention we all have different experiences, different upbringings, even if we are Latinos, but I embrace that. I learned to appreciate and to love, to talk about my culture, about being Latina, about being Mexican, about being raised in Aurora. It's something that I like doing, and I know those around me could tell that that's who I was. Something else that one of the aha moments that I had for me was when I was driving to one of my classes, and I realized that I pulled up to the university listening to Spanish music. And I remember that day, I'm like, how beautiful that I have the opportunity as a Latina who just pulled in my car listening to Spanish music to who's about to walk into a classroom where I'm trying to gain as much knowledge as I can to further my education to become the social worker that I want to become. I think that honestly was a very special moment for me, because I realized that I do have the best of both worlds.
Gilberto Chaidez Jr., 22 years old, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, civil engineering. I was born in Aurora, Illinois, as an American citizen. However, most of my childhood, I grew up not really knowing whether I was an American or if I was a Mexican. And the reason I say that is because as a young child, not even 6 months old, my family moved back to Durango, Mexico. And I grew up there for about 4 to 5 years. So although when I did come back, I was the only person in my family who had a U.S. passport, I really didn't feel any more different than from how my parents were. And pretty much going into my elementary school years, it was difficult trying to assimilate with everyone else, in the sense that I wasn't facing the same obstacles a typical first grader would face. I had to mature very quickly, and for me, first grade, even though I'm already about to graduate from the University of Illinois, I can still honestly say first grade was the most difficult grade level that I've gone through, because in those 9 months alone, I've had to overcome more obstacles than I needed to overcome in the last 22 years of my life. First of all, I didn't know English going into the first grade, and I really didn't have any resources or anyone to go to learn the language, because my parents didn't know English. To this very day, I wouldn't call them experts at English. They can effectively communicate whenever they need to, but it's very broken. And other than that, really the only support that my parents could provide me was just the morale support to just keep going forward, and we'll figure it out as we go along. But as far as how normally elementary school students, if they have trouble doing their homework, their parents are always there to help them. I really couldn't go to my parents for that help, except for mathematics, and that's pretty much the one thing that kept me going, was that for me, uno más uno es dos, 1 plus 1 is 2, and that's the same case in any language because numbers are the same. So for me, that was what kept me going, and I really did become stronger in mathematics and eventually in science, because that was an easier way for me to share my ideas and to actually try to learn in school. However, I did pick up on my English very quickly. I was faced with the challenge that if I did not understand English to a certain level, I was threatened to be held back in first grade. So to this very day, I still don't know how I did it. My mother actually helped me learn, and I don't know how, because she to this day she's still taking English classes. But I really do think that my faith with God really did help me, and it kept me moving forward. However, one thing that I am very thankful for, that although I did have a lot of obstacles early on, is that my mindset is a very family central oriented mindset. Growing up in a Mexican family, it's a huge family. My dad grew up with 9 brothers and sisters. My mother has 3 brothers and 1 sister, and with that comes a lot of cousins and a lot of people in the family. So everything that I did, my family was always there for me. It might not have been the same relatives, but they were always there for me, and that's something that I really cherished for my Latino culture, because although I am the oldest sibling in my family, and I did go through a lot of things that no one else had gone through in my family, I always had that support from them. So I never felt I was alone, although I did have to do and venture out into unknown territory many times.
My name is Barbara Hernandez. I'm 21 years old, and I'm an Aurora University class of 2014. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be a pastry chef. I always loved the idea of making pastries, cakes, cupcakes, you name it. But something that I was also passionate about was always being in the community and helping other people. So I did whatever I wanted to do in high school. I still maintained great grades. I was president of SCCLA, of DECA, and at one time when I was a freshman year, I was also a president of Family Focus after school program. And stuff like that, I never really took in mind that I was probably a leader. I could probably be someone that could help other people, not only in school, but outside of school. So when I met State Representative Linda Chapalavia, I didn't know who she was at first. I knew what was a state representative. So when I met with her, she saw me, and I was really shy back then. She pretty much just asked me, "What do you want to do when you get out of high school?" I told her I want to be a pastry chef. She said, "Really? I don't see you as a pastry chef. I see you as a leader." Pretty excited that I met her, and being one of the Latinas in Aurora that has made a great impact in our community has helped a lot of people, including myself. When I met with her the second time, I wanted to talk to her about college, what I wanted to do. And it was only 2 weeks before graduation. Why don't you go to a community college and get your gen eds at least done, so you won't have to pay that big tuition of the university? And I said, okay, I'll take that into consideration. At first I didn't want to go to a community college because I heard a lot of stereotypes from other people. But I learned over the years of attending there that those people that told me that a community college was bad, they were wrong. That was the smartest thing I could ever do in my college career. I wanted to actually go into political science, and I met a lot of people. We did a lot of constituent work. She took me to different events in Aurora, and it just opened my mind to a lot of great stuff. A lot of great leaders that we have that a lot of people don't realize we have in Aurora. It's just a great eye-opener, and being a minority and a female just made it even better. It was a big advantage that I had in being in politics and trying and changing something in the community.
Hello, my name is Isaac Palma. I'm 22 years old. I'm a 2013 graduate of Northern Illinois University. Growing up as a first-generation Latino hasn't always been easy. You've had to adapt to a way of life, a different culture, different laws, even sometimes having snow. Being a first-generation immigrant from Venezuela, I learned firsthand how bitter cold can be, and how unforgiving not knowing English could really be. One specific instance that comes to mind is when I was in kindergarten. I had just moved here from Venezuela, and not knowing English, I thought that, like in Venezuela, I would take the school bus home, and the bus would just drop me off in my neighborhood right in my front step. That doesn't usually happen here. There's usually designated stops. It was a very cold winter day. We got let out of school early because of the snow. And I was dropped off at the wrong location as a kindergartner. Not knowing any English, I couldn't really communicate with anybody. So my best option was to walk home on my own. And as I was walking, I soon realized that I was lost, not knowing where I was, being new here, and also not knowing English. I simply sat down in a field and just waited for somebody to find me. About 45 minutes later, a lady came by. She happened to be bilingual and saw me crying there as a kindergartner there, and she asked me if I was lost, and I told her yes, and I couldn't even tell her where I was living. And she saw the tag on my book bag and was able to take me home. And to that day, I always remember how knowing English was my #1 priority. Since then, I learned English in 6 months and consistently just strive to be better. Take what people tell you that you can't do something and use it as fuel. No matter if you're a second-generation immigrant Latino or first-generation immigrant Latino, the struggles are always going to be the same. But how you react to them and how you adapt to them and then overcome them is up to you. It's not up to anybody else.
My name is Alexander Perez. I'm 21 and I'm a TV production major at Columbia College, Chicago. I always seem to find myself staring at things, and I know it's kind of funny, just because when I'm in Chicago, I tend to stare a lot, especially at the skyscrapers and the skyline in general. And that's because at one point it was nothing more than a dream. I never really thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now or attending the school of my dreams. It was a blessing to get into Columbia, and I'm really grateful for that. But my friends, I know it looks kind of weird sometimes when I'm sitting there just staring at something. And again, that's just because at one point it was nothing more than a dream. Me standing at Navy Pier, looking at the skyline, that was nothing more than something that I played in my head over and over and over in the hopes that it would become reality. And to actually be there and to have a purpose to be there was something that I've always dreamed about. And you know, my grandmother was the one that always told me to shoot for my dreams, you know, no matter what. She would always tell me, you know, puedes hacer todo lo que quieres. You can do anything that you want, as long as you give your heart to it. And she really motivated me and pushed me to pursue film, because I think she knew that deep down in my heart that film was my passion. And I'm really grateful for that. Growing up, I actually went to the drive-in theater a lot with my grandfather. He always loved to go to the movies. We would always go on the weekends. And I really feel like that's where my love for film actually started. In addition to my aunt introducing me to, you know, 007, Indiana Jones, and all those other movies. Star Wars, of course, was one of the biggest ones that she introduced me to. That changed my life. And then it went downhill from there, and I just became this huge nerd. But yeah, my grandfather took me to the movies a lot, and that is where love for film and filmmaking took place. For me, the movies were a place of magic. You know, I've never been to a magic show. Never been to a magic show. I don't think I've ever even met a magician. But going to that theater and seeing, you know, these great stories, really, for me, that was magic. Because, you know, growing up as a kid, couldn't really do too much. You know, my family didn't have a lot of money, so I never really got to travel and see these cool things. But every time I go to the theater, it didn't matter how much money we did or we didn't have. I got to travel. I got to travel to sometimes other galaxies, to China, Mexico, all over the country, all through film. And I owe it to my grandpa. He would take me to the movies all the time. And I really owed him. I really owe it to him and to my family as a whole for helping me out, for helping me achieve my dream and getting me to where I need to be.